Hello. Happy Monday. So nice to be here with you for a little while on this beautiful sunny day in Arizona. Counting down my Arizona Mondays, I don't think there's too many more left here. Let's see, how many more would there be? Probably about 4 more Mondays here with you in Sedona. And maybe I'll take a little break then. That's sort of my plan. Take a couple weeks break in the summer. Everybody can have a break from Midwife Monday for a couple of weeks. And then in July, we'll be back in Kentucky at our new location. So we'll finish up, we're finishing up May here and then most of June. So the last Monday in June, I think we'll be on our way. We'll be driving. Or maybe we'll be there. I'm not quite sure. The actual date is a little uncertain because everybody in the world apparently is moving west to east. We did not know this, but we were trying to book a U-Haul this last weekend and pretty non-definitive, although it sounds like we'll get a truck of some kind at some point. Not the most helpful, but I guess the gist is people are renting trucks and driving east, and then the trucks aren't getting back. Isn't that so boring, but sort of important if you're someone that happens to be looking for a truck? I thought so. The plan at the moment is to caravan with at least one family here, maybe two, which is kind of fun. I don't know if it'll make it more stressful, but I think the goal is to make it less stressful. Obviously, we have friends that want to help and come along and be on the road trip and see the new place. And I think it will be helpful for the kids to just have extra cars to drive in. It's going to be a long drive. So we'll see. It's all in the plans. Yeah, it's all in the plans. The house itself is just there, just sitting there. So I'm trying to pace myself with projects there that need to be done. I won't bore you with the super boring ones. It's really not worth time here on YouTube, but there are some things that need to be taken care of before we get there. So I've been working on that. And let's see, we have someone mowing our grass. God bless him. Sounds like a really amazing guy there that came our way and is caretaking the property while we pack up here. So that's feeling really good. Even just engaging with people that live there that I haven't met yet. Super friendly. No big deal. Really open to helping. So just good vibes. Feels like, again, it's the right thing for us. And really, it's like the red carpet has just been rolled out. It's been so easy. And now it's coming closer. So one last detail we're trying to take care of, and then I'm going to pick a card, is the purchase of extra acreage behind the house. So we have some acreage in front of the house, which is really cool and fun. But then in the back, there's 4 acres that are for sale. And it's been revealed that it wasn't quite what we thought, meaning that we were told that this particular parcel was kind of landlocked. So yes, someone needs to pay for it, but the natural choice would be us because our property is right there. And the rumor was that nobody could really build on it since it was kind of, without a road. Well, that's not entirely true. We came to find out. So after a little bit of panic, just a little bit, because it just wasn't what I thought, wasn't what we were told, we come to realize that it's not the case, but we can still buy the land, hopefully, before anyone else does. That would really not be my most ideal scenario, to have somebody that close to us. much less building or whatever else someone might do, because I think we would mostly just use it as farming land. So now we would really like to have that last little piece to kind of complete this picture. So we're working on that. And to that end, and I always like announce these weird things here because there are people that are listening seemingly everywhere. If there is anybody that wants to kind of be an investor, and by that I don't mean actually like give money, just front money for a land purchase and make interest, I would love to talk with you because it's pretty simple, and I won't go into the mathematical details here, but if you're interested, or if you know somebody that is, because if somebody just has money sitting in a bank, it's not going to make, as much interest as we would be willing to do for a short period of time just to secure the land so that, we could own it. And again, nobody else would build on it because it backs the property. It's silly in a way, but real estate is real estate. So if you know anyone that would be willing to do that, just send me an email and I can send you details. And, it's pretty cut and dry and would be a pretty quick investment for somebody. But just having closed on the house, that amount of cash is not something that we have. So I'd love to just work it out with the owner of the land, right? I think that's always the best. Like, let's just work this out if possible. No realtors. I'm done with that. I mean, they were super helpful in the way that they are, but like, really, people should just work with people, is my opinion. So it might come to that. Maybe once we get there, the guy that owns the land will be up for a conversation or some kind of negotiation. But, being at a far distance and not knowing him, that hasn't worked out yet. So anybody has any ideas, send them my way. It is also possible that that acreage could be used for minimal birth activity. I mean, nothing big. I don't think 4 acres is what I'm envisioning for a retreat center, but it could be a great amount of land for just a yurt or two and have people come and birth their babies there if that ends up being of interest. Nathan, my friend Nathan, of course, many of you know him. He's an OB. He'll only be an hour and a half away. So I totally am feeling that birth work is going to be back in my future soon, that this was kind of a lull for obvious reasons, the move and such, and that I will be back to hopefully attending home births in this new place with just as amazing people as I've gotten the privilege to work with here. And he'll be around. So I don't know, maybe we'll do some stuff together, and having a couple of birth yurts might be really cool. So anyway, putting out the word, if you happen to know anyone who would be interested in doing that. Like I said, it's basically just loaning money for a land purchase and making back interest. So it's really not a super big deal, but it's not for everyone either. All right, let's pick a card. And thank you. Thank you for being excited, Megan and Jill and Patty and Valerie. And if there's anybody else here that wants to comment, it's always nice to just see who's here, say hello, feel less like I'm talking into a black hole, which is how it feels sometimes. I also have to think about what we're talking about today. Okay, let's pick a card first. Deep breath. Come back in our bodies here. If you left. Oh, cool. Well, this kind of goes along with the story I was just telling about the land. So, haha. No accidents. Perseverance. It's really beautiful, isn't it? I love her artwork. Yes, please clean your fridge. That's totally fine. Roots and Wings is the deck. And this is Perseverance. So I don't know. Was that meant for me in this story of the land? Or maybe just keeping on all of it? It's hard to keep on sometimes. Maybe there needs to be a better way of thinking of that, like persevering, having strength, but you also have to let yourself rest and regroup even while you're persevering. Straight old perseverance can get exhausting is what I'm feeling right now. Let's see if the little book has anything additional to add to our perseverance. The will and ability to keep going even in the face of obstacles. So, Lauren, you're about to free birth. There are naysayers. Keep going. Listen to your heart. And yeah, I'll take it personally here for a moment. I think it applies to the story I just told. Just we got to keep going and hold the highest vision for this vision we have, moving and property and taking care of ourselves in that way. It's really tricky sometimes to not let yourself dip into the what ifs. And this goes for birth too, right? Letting yourself dip into the like, well, this could happen. And if this happens, then this is going to happen, or, whatever. So I've been catching myself doing that with this land. And I've said it as like, well, if we don't end up being able to buy this land, then okay. I mean, on one hand, there's something relieving about worst case scenario sometimes. Okay, worst case scenario, maybe it's not ours, right? There's that. And then it's staying in this vibration of perseverance that isn't draining. So like a high vibe belief that you're doing all you can do. And I mean, we are. There's nothing else we can do right now about this particular issue. So we're persevering in our emotional capacity to imagine it. So I'm imagining it. Yes, we have this land. I can see it. Maybe there's a birth hut on it. We have the freedom of that expansion and staying. That's the perseverance. And with birth, I think it's very similar, right? So we hold the vision of holding that baby, bringing that baby up to our chest, and the baby is looking at us and making little noises and looks great and is breathing and all of that. Like we stay with that feeling as our perseverance rather than straining and diving down into the fear and other people's fears, as you're sharing, Lauren. How can we protect ourselves from that? I think this is just life. And there are a lot of people out there that think it doesn't matter. Oh, well, that's just wishful thinking. Oh, well, you can't really control your reality. And sure, there are things we cannot control. Ultimately, we don't control a whole lot. So I'm not saying that, but we do control how we feel and the energy we put out. So that's my monologue. Where did that come from? That's my monologue on the perseverance card. So I'm taking that to heart. How can I persevere while holding the highest vision and not making it a drudgery of like, ugh, I hope we get there. Let me see, Megan. Yeah. Yeah, for sure. It's such a cool word, isn't it? To persevere. Perseverance. It's like not something you say all the time. I don't think I do. Okay. Well, that was a good card draw, I think. Short little advertisement for my witchery class. I think a bunch of you here are going to be there with me, and I'm super excited about that. We start in June, so you still have a couple of weeks to sign yourself up if you'd like to be there. And it's going to be that kind of stuff. We're going to be going into all of it. A lot of things that I've hit on today, and not card readings necessarily, because that's only like one tiny little part of connection. Jill, I think Jessica, Patty, I think a whole bunch of you will be there. So that's just going to be so great because I'm actually going to get to hear you. It's not just going to be me. I mean, I'm definitely going to like teach the class and give you a whole lot to work with, but it's going to be us connecting to and sharing what we know and what we've learned and what's working and what's not working. So I'm super excited for that. And I've been I haven't made the class yet, and I will, of course, before, but it's not the kind of class that you can just write down, in my opinion. Like, I'm just feeling into it, and things are coming in my own life where I'm like, oh, yeah, that. So this weekend, we even did some house clearing. And I'll tell the longer story probably in the witchery class, but I made a video even because my husband was the one doing the clearing. So I was like, hey, wait a minute, you're going to do this. Let me get a video. I'm going to put this in the class. So I think there'll be lots of fun videos in addition to the live classes that you'll have access to, and just more topics, more things to explore, because there are as many things as there are people, and there isn't really a right way of doing it. So not to spoil the class, I'm going to share lots of stuff with you. But the takeaway, even if you're not taking the class, is you're all capable of all these things. And there really isn't like a prescription or a recipe. It's really just being in touch with your own, your own vibration, and working with energy. So yeah. House clearing. So I'll just give the like 20-second version. Just cleansing your house of energy. And actually before birth, Lauren, that's something I offer to clients of mine. I've done many house clearings, in people's prenatal appointments if they want that, and they can kind of help, and we kind of have a way of doing it. Of course, I do it in my own house. So not that there isn't a method, I think there is, but also could be purely intuitive in the way you just deal with what might be around a house. And if you have people in there all the time for something, like we had all this crazy house stuff going on here, right? I shared that. People coming in to see the house, and they did an inspection all for the people that are buying the house we're in. So every single time they left, I was like, I need to clear this house. I don't want anybody's leftover energy, good or bad, doesn't matter. I don't want anybody else's energy in my sacred space. So you clear it out. And again, I think it's really great before birth, even if it just also like prepares you in another way. I like sage, but there's lots of ways, and whatever calls to you, I'd say. Yeah, I'd say whatever calls to you. I love that, Megan. Maybe we should do a class together someday. I'm hoping this witchery class is like, I don't know, maybe a couple times a year is what I'm thinking right now. And perhaps every time that it's offered, it'll have like a slightly different spin on it. I'm not quite sure. It's an idea I've been playing with. So this will be like the prototype version, but I don't know. Maybe in the future, Megan, that'd be cool to collaborate on something and, tie in different traditions and different religions and different cultures, because that's so overwhelming for like one round. And I can only offer what I can offer. Like, I don't know the Kabbalah enough to even say much about it at all, right? So maybe we could bring people in, do that together. Yeah, I've been doing a lot more clearings since, I don't know, I guess since all this crazy landlord stuff came up. And I'm not going to, if all of you don't know the whole story, I'm not going to bore you with it right now. But, we don't own the house we're in. That's why we're moving. And the person that owns it is not someone that I would want to engage with past the point that we have had to, sort of. So since I became super aware of that and the energetic dissonance that is, which is great, I've been doing more clearing. It's not my house, but I still am working with what we have there. And the kids, we have a lot of people in our house. We have one of our dogs die. Like, there's always stuff. And it's really fun. So teaching kids how to clear is also really fun. And we can talk about that in the witchery class. My kids are fairly good at it, and they're learning, but it's cool to see them want the skills. And I think it's a great skill. Yeah, Jill, and we'll see how it goes this time. Feedback is always welcome, and you all might have some ideas, but I think it's going to blossom into something a lot bigger. And Margot, has all kinds of stuff she would want to share. So I guess in my highest vision, this is another kind of like part of indie birth that isn't really birth. It's just women being in their power, and all the resources and all the ways we can support that, I think, is definitely where we're moving, and not to leave the birth behind. Totally. Like, I'll be back in birth before too long, and the school is flourishing. But I know Margot also feels the same, that there is a definite call towards this other part and a larger community that includes more women that maybe aren't necessarily birthing. So I do think this is just the starting point. And, Megan, whether it's a collaboration with you or, I don't know, any of you out there, I think there's all kinds of ways that this will grow. Speaking of new material, and then I promise I'll talk about something birth related for a few minutes at least. We have a new podcast. We have 2 new podcasts out. I do anyway. One with Nathan. So the one about the midwife and the OB is the name of our podcast. And that is episode 4, kind of, sort of about all the, vaccination stuff. I don't think it's going to be totally surprising or even sort of surprising to anyone here that listens. But the audience for that podcast, maybe, I don't know, might be a little bit more mainstream, just because he has his networks of people and doctors, and they're not necessarily my network. So I don't know, might sound like crazy talk to some people. And then the second podcast that was released today is mine, so Taking Back Birth, and it's called The Mother Wound. And it was really timely for reasons I won't go into, just things in my own life with my mom. But of course, it was timely. Like, there are no coincidences. So my friend Devin hopped on this one with me, and we had a chat about all things feminine and mother wound related. So take a listen if you want to. And if you enjoy her and her perspective, check out her site. It's innerspark.life, I think. And she does flower essences. She's just really a very witchy, beautiful woman. And she's going to contribute a little bit to the witchery class, which is super exciting. So we'll have some videos from her, or at least a video, I think, on flower essences, which I'm really excited, because that's totally her thing. She's an expert in that area. So I'm more than happy to pull in other people to this class. So check it out if you want to, indiebirth.org/witchery 101. Hope to see more of you there, and or, spread it around if there are people in your life you think would like it. Okay, so it's time for a couple minutes, 15, 20 minutes perhaps, of some birth talk, of some midwifery talk. That's why we're actually here, even though I think keeping this more well-rounded in a sense is feeling good to me right now. And again, it's mostly because I'm not 100% in birth at the moment. I'm not on call right now. I'm not attending any births that I know of into the future. So it's really wide open, and it's given me like the literal and figurative space to explore all kinds of other things. And, when you're on call, I kind of feel like your brain shrinks or something, like as a protective mechanism or something. You're just like really focused on taking care of yourself, making sure your family is good. And then you're ready for whatever comes next, whatever birth comes in. Sorry, I'm gonna sneeze. Or not. Oh, that's weird. I psyched myself out of it. So yeah, I'm being on call and how that feels. And I think it's good because you're really focused on that phone ringing and going and supporting. And of course, if you were to need any skills, so if someone hemorrhages, for example, or whatever, you want to be up on all of that. So, that's something honestly about taking some time off that feels weird. And it's kind of like riding a bike in a lot of ways. So I'm sure when I'm back in it, it will just be second nature again. But kind of thinking about it, it's like, oh yeah, all that stuff that but that like isn't right at the front of your brain. You have to find a way to get at the front of your brain again in preparation. So I don't know. I don't know when I'll be doing that. I have no idea. The last birth I attended was in December. So it could very well be a full year off. And maybe I'll start next year is kind of what I'm thinking. And that's even if this community, if I have a place in this community. I really don't know. I assume people are having home births, but I don't know the midwives. I don't know any of it. So I don't know. I'm just kind of in waiting mode. So all's to say that sometimes birth topics aren't the first thing to come to my mind lately, even though this is Midwife Monday. So tell me if you have any questions. I know there were some on Mighty Networks, and I can go back and look at those. Megan, I know you had one. I think it was about money. So I have to think about that. I think Megan's question was around making money as a midwife other than attending births. And if other people here have experience or ideas, feel free to share them via chat. The more the merrier with ideas like this, because I don't know if I really have any great ones other than I think there's so much possibility in midwifery for all kinds of education. I guess that's where my brain goes. And maybe yours does too, Megan. But, there's so much to be communicated about different parts of the childbearing year. Like, even if we just stuck with that, we're not even talking about cycles and girls and, all of that. We're just childbearing year. How much information is there? And what could you specialize in? What would you really, really like to share? So that's my short version. Is not to focus on the money per se. So side note, Jason, my husband, did a Money Matters class this past Saturday. And ironically, you could donate even just $1 to get a recording of this class. So you would go to his site. It's sovereignbusiness.org. So if you're curious more about like how he approaches that, and it may be the more masculine sort of spiritual version of money, but hey, if you're open to it and you want more, go there, check it out. I know he did a full hour on Saturday, and I don't even know exactly what he said, but because I'm in the same house with him, I can imagine. And money just isn't the focus for me. And I'm not saying that because I'm independently wealthy and I've never had to think about money. I also will admit I've been really lucky and blessed and privileged for sure to have the space in my life to pursue what was actually in my heart. And not everybody is in that same situation. So even my husband, I would say, when we were younger, we had these more traditional roles for sure. So he was working, I was home with little kids, I was pursuing midwifery, and I can see now he didn't really have the luxury of pursuing what was on his heart as much because he was just trying to feed us. So money is real. It is important, whether we like it or not. But if we can just get out of that mindset for long enough, even if it's just half an hour, to refocus and feel where you're being led, where the energy is going. And then, really, it sounds so idealistic, but I've lived this for many, many years. When I do that, when I follow that, then the money usually comes. It usually comes. And if it doesn't, then, you may have to take some other action. But back to the education, I think there's so many topics. So even if you're a midwife and there are other midwives in your town, most midwives don't teach their clients. That's why we have 13 moons, for one thing. And back when I was a midwifery student, I was the one that taught our clients only after I was educated myself and supported in that by my preceptor, because she really did. And that's something I learned from her. And I was just like so grateful that in a 2-hour prenatal appointment, which was a typical length for her, a lot of it was education. And she had worked really hard on kind of having a syllabus in her head. She didn't have any of it online. I think she even gave people binders. This was like a long time ago. But she had a curriculum in her head, and she brought her clients through the topics that were important through their prenatal appointments. A lot of midwives don't do that. I would say most don't do that. Most don't do that at all. So it's up to you to find a class if you're the pregnant woman. It's up to you to find other pregnant women or community. So what I'm saying is, if you're a midwife, even if they're not your clients, there's no reason you can't offer that. And we've done that here. Ashley, who was my student, was offering a full day class here, and it was paid, and it was open to anyone, anybody that was planning a home birth, or maybe any kind of birth. I don't remember, but it was open to the community. So I think that is one of the easiest, and maybe not the most exciting, but the easiest things is just teach people, create an opportunity for them to learn, to get to know each other. And maybe that'll build on itself, and it takes a while. So I do want to say that if this sounds idealistic, if you're like, oh my God, I've hung flyers for a class and no one comes. Right. I hear you. And that was the case. That is the case many places initially. It takes time. When I started Indie Birth, it was 15 years ago. And the first 5 years, it was just a total nothing. It was totally nothing. It was an online site with natural birth stories, and it didn't make a penny. So, it takes time. It took 10 years to produce the things that people actually wanted. And in that time, I totally had the thoughts that I think we all have, like, oh, birth work isn't, lucrative, and you could never make a living teaching a class. Nobody wants that. And everybody goes to the hospital, like all of the excuses. But really, it just takes time. So online is great. I don't care who you are, where you live. People are here. This is what a large percentage of people are doing. So why not? Why not get in on it if it calls to you, and teach whatever you want and see where it goes, basic business stuff, get a website, get a newsletter list going. You might only have 10 people on it, but, fast forward 10 years and you'll have 1 million people on it. And those are the people that show up to things. Those are the people that contribute to things. Those are the people that create the community. So it's both a simple and more complicated answer. What do other midwives do? I mean, there's photography, right? Like, I think Margot has taken photos for people. I think mostly her clients, but, add on something like that. Learn how to take some photos. Offer that to your clients. Offer it to the other people. Offer mothers retreats, and again, it's not to say that you get the idea and 24 hours later you're making money doing it. But if you're really committed to it and you put in time, it will return to you. That's the law of energy in the universe, and that's hopefully the law that we all follow when we do give, right? So we don't give just to receive, but we recognize when we're giving that the natural energetic flow is to return that to us in one form or another. Yeah, totally. And so it's just the reminder, right? Because but we all need the reminder that nothing happens overnight. And I've told this story, but my husband years ago was like, you should start a podcast. What is a podcast? Why would I do that? Nobody wants to hear me talk. And his business philosophy has always been simple, and he's been very successful utilizing it, which is to just stick with a thing, or things. Just stick with a thing. So he wrote a daily newsletter for, I don't know how many years, 7 years, 10 years, every single day. So something like that. You're creating a community either locally or maybe both online as well. And people don't just trust you overnight, maybe even in person. I mean, I think we all have a better chance of connecting more genuinely with people in person and creating trust possibly quicker. But the point is, people take time. And there's also just a lot of bullshit out there, right? Birth and otherwise. There's lots of people doing stuff and selling stuff. Um, and maybe it's not good, or you just don't resonate with it. So you're creating your own opportunity for a resident community, which does take time. Also, I don't think midwifery is a moneymaker. Just attending births, and I think that's kind of why you were asking too, Megan. That doesn't mean I haven't felt supported and it hasn't felt abundant, but just simple numbers. It just will never be something where midwives are millionaires attending births. Like, it's just not set up that way, and we all know the reasons, I think, why. Um, at a large cultural scale, it's not super appreciated. And, at a micro level, people, if they can't use insurance, right, they don't quite understand. Or, $4,000 for 10 months of care, that can totally, not be in everyone's reach. I understand that. But I have never turned anyone away for money. So I don't completely understand it, because sometimes people just use that as an excuse, and then they'll go spend the 4,000 on whatever, a car, right? So we just have a lack of value around this service that we provide. And yeah, on one hand, we need to make sure we know our own value. On the other side, just pure numbers, like I'm saying. I don't think there's ever going to be a millionaire midwife out there. Also, because we have to honor our physical limitations, our emotional limitations. And for me, that's always been very important. So, again, I feel blessed. I am privileged that I'm not the sole moneymaker in our family. If I was, or if that were to become the case, I might have a different story here to tell. Because there are midwives, I can think of a couple here that they feel they have to, and that's a whole other topic, but they feel they have to take on whatever, 5, 6, 7, as many clients a month as possible, because that's their livelihood. So I think that's altogether not the greatest recommendation, really, for making midwifery a career, because I don't know how they do that. That's not me. I don't think my body and my soul would allow me to do that. Maybe some of you are different and that would work for you. And then it would feel like a lot of money, probably, depending on how much you're charging. And yes, there are expenses and gas, but the thing you can't really put a price tag on, of course, is just your time and energy. And you never know with birth. You never know. So most births are lovely. It's an honor to be there, but it's not that we don't work hard too. It's like being on call, like I said, being up in the middle of the night for multiple days. Just having someone on your brain in their scenario, it's like it never leaves. You don't get off in your brain. Although that's something I'm kind of pondering before I go back to this, because the mental energy you just can't put a price on. So in that way, let's take an average of $4,000 for 10 months of midwifery care. Yeah, it feels like a lot at first, but by the time all's said and done and the baby's here, you don't want to price that out at per hour, because it'll just be depressing. And then there are births, that maybe you miss and you're like, oh, well, that was easy. But most of the time, I think midwives work pretty hard for what we're getting in exchange. And that's a choice, it's a choice I've made. It's a choice many of you will make, that it is worth it. It's worth it to to serve in that way. And yeah, we do need an exchange. Although Margot and I have totally pondered, how could we do this for free? Like if we were really supported in other ways and we really truly were like financially more independent, then maybe we would, maybe that is a model for the future. And I certainly have attended births and taken care of people entirely for free, and not a ton, but like one a year at least. And that's usually something that feels good and has always worked out really great. So it's a complicated topic. I don't know that anyone really has it figured out. I forget what else. I was going to add something else about money and price. Oh, so my daughter works with a wedding photographer. Oh man, just to compare, do you know how much a wedding photographer gets paid for one day? One day. And yes, I'm sure she has some prep. And, I don't know what else is entailed. Prep, then she has the one day, the wedding, and then there's the other side of, reviewing the photos and that kind of thing. Yeah, they get paid twice or 3 times what midwives do for 10 months of care. So, that's no, I'm not trying to be mean to the photographer. She's awesome. She's actually a client of mine, past client of mine. She's amazing and she takes beautiful photos. The point is, people are willing to spend twice or 3 times what they'd pay a midwife on their wedding photographs. So just think about that for a moment. And, that's not everybody. There's totally people that would never do that, could never do that. But if you saw the amount of people coming through here, at least, right? Sedona's a travel destination, so there's tons of weddings. The people don't live here. And that's what they're willing to. So things like that bring me back to reality. And it makes you just kind of want to scrap the whole model and start over. Like, how can we start this over? How can we start midwifery over as a sustainable way for us to make a living and give really good care and have people be able to afford our care and home birth, right? It's just a mess. So I'm going to read the comments now. Yeah, man, we all missed the boat on that one. We should have become wedding photographers. I know, and I don't want to sound like a negative Nelly. Like I said, midwifery has been good to me. I don't have like any huge personal complaints. It's just I have to gauge the dollars versus time and energy and toss it up for me, which is what you also have to do. So, different points in life bring different things. And having babies and young kids and now moving, not only is it not practical for me to have clients, but it's kind of not worth it right now either because I just need my energy in a different direction. And if I was a doctor, if I was an OB and I was getting paid 10 or 15,000 for a birth, maybe I'd rethink things, but that's not the case. And there does seem to be a ceiling for sure on what midwives charge. And the area I'm going to is a great example. I don't know what that is. My intuition and just common sense tells me it's probably less than here because this place has gotten crazy inflated in all kinds of ways. So, I'll have my own dose of reality in a new community. Right. Yeah, that's perfectly said, Brooke. So it's just not being a negative Nelly, but I think just being realistic about it. It's not necessarily worth the dollar sign. It's not worth the amount, but it is worth it. It is worth it, or we wouldn't keep doing it. And when it becomes, to us, not worth it, we either take a break or, we find something else to do. I don't know how to change the whole culture around it. I think we're doing the best we can by charging money in the first place. I don't know if any of you fit into this category, so I'm not trying to offend anyone, but there's certainly a good movement of people out there too that somehow think women shouldn't charge for birth services, right? And that's a whole other thing to deal with. And I don't agree because I've invested 15 years of my life and tons of my own money in training, et cetera, et cetera. So I don't think that's a viable option unless, like I said, somehow communities could support the midwife more. You know, if my family was given a house and land and chickens and people were always bringing over food and payment, sure, I'd be the community midwife and I wouldn't need a dollar, but we're not being supported in that way. So we have to, be real about it too, and not underestimate ourselves and not undercharge everyone just because we feel guilty or shameful or something about charging money. If you want to be able to do this work more than like a year, you have to at least break even. And even more, you obviously want to make money because that is how we live in this world, again, for better or for worse. So yeah, passive income is my best idea. I guess you summed it up, Brooke. There's all kinds of opportunities for, I guess I would favor the class structure, but that's me. I really enjoy teaching blah, 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 product. But those of you that have talents in that way, you should do that. I've just not found what that would be for me. And I've had other businesses in the past when I was a musician for one where we sent out physical products. Oh, that's just not my thing. But, herbals, that's a great thing if you're an herbalist. There's lots of opportunity for good marketing strategies for people that offer things to pregnant women. Like, that's the truth, because there will never stop being, well, I hope not, never stop being pregnant women. So if you do have something that's valuable to them, it can be tricky to market it because there's a lot of noise out there too, but it's also a huge industry and it's a huge need. Pregnant women are looking for all the things for themselves, for their babies. So it's really finding your niche and not doing something that doesn't feel like it's from anywhere but your heart, and avoiding whatever you offer being too vanilla, because you don't want to offend anyone. And I've been there. Like I said, indie birth, the first couple of years, totally vanilla, was boring. Nobody cared. Nobody came. They wouldn't have bought anything had there been anything to buy, right? So it is finding who you are, what you offer uniquely. Not everybody will love it, right? People will hate it, but lots of people will love it. So what is that for you? It's a great day to make a list. Go brainstorm all the things you're passionate about. And even if you don't look at it for another year or a couple of years, you'll have this list. And maybe you'll come back to it and you'll be like, I said that. I said that a year ago. I wanted to do a postpartum course, or I wanted to do like a how to take care of a newborn course, and here you are getting this on paper right now. So I hope I didn't miss any. Oh, sweet, Lauren. Yeah, we'll be like 2 hours from Cincinnati. So I'm so excited. Like, we're going to be near so many cool people in this direction, in this direction, in this direction. So I really want to teach an indie birth workshop, I hope this summer. I don't know if I can get it together that fast, only because I don't have an office like this. And I don't even know where to put an office. But teaching a free class is super easy other than having a space. So we get there in June. I don't know, maybe in August or this fall, I'll be ready to have a class. And I know there will be so many people that come out and I get to meet in real life. And that is so exciting. It just feels like such a new, fun chapter. And I just don't know. I don't know like where it's going or like what will be asked of me or any of it. So I'm super excited about that. Yeah, Molly, I would repeat to myself there. And the vanilla thing is so common. So, we have lots of women coming through our doula program, the Birth Warrior Project. And that's where we're getting more practice interacting with women that are creating birth businesses as doulas. And the midwifery students are too, but they're kind of on this longer track of education. So it's not as front and center usually for them to be working on their actual business. But the Birth Warrior Project has been great in that way. And, I've learned so much just observing and seeing where these women are at and perusing their websites. And in general, I'm impressed with their drive to create something. However, that said, I think there is the vanilla problem a lot of the time. And we hear it out loud a lot of the time. Doulas saying, hey, I hear what you're saying, but like, I don't want to stand out in my community too much. What if the midwives don't like me? Or what if the other doulas think I'm crazy, right? So again, that's a common thread for women. In fact, the Mother Wound podcast I was referencing earlier is a great one to listen to just to get more insight about where this comes from. Why are women so afraid to speak up? Why are we so afraid to not be vanilla? Why is it such a risk to have a voice? Right? They're all great questions. And you're not alone, Molly. It's recognizing that first, because I think most people's first instinct, and again, it was mine too, just put out something nice, pretty birth photo. It doesn't capture anyone. It doesn't offend anyone, but it also doesn't capture anyone. So I'm not saying we have to try to offend people, but we will. We will offend people when we're just being ourselves, and that's okay. That's okay too, because it moves you through to the people that really are resonant with what you're saying, whatever it is. All right, folks, this was a lengthy one today at 52 minutes almost. Thanks for being here with me. I'll see you next week. See you for a couple more weeks before I take a break. So as always, email me or post on the social if you have topics you want to talk about. And check out the Witchery class, check out the new podcasts, all kinds of ways to be engaged and part of the community. All right, bye. Have a great week. Love you all. See you later.